You win in business ultimately by, do you find the best people? Do you keep them engaged for longer? And do they work harder for you? That's actually the algorithm of how you be successful in business. And I can't tell you how much that we benefited on the human side of Innocent, that people felt that the harder they worked, the better they were doing for the planet. Because literally for every bottle that sells, it's a little bit more money going to charity. So I just got smarter people working harder for longer. My background is I set up Innocent with my two best friends. From the beginning, we set out, we talked about we wanted to sort of just sand off the rough edges of capitalism. That was about making sure that everything that we made was good, that it was made in a sustainable way, that all the employees were treated as and made shareholders, and that we redistributed some of the profits. Over the course, actually, of us running the business, we gave 60% of our net profits to charity, but we made an ongoing commitment of a minimum of 10% each year. It still allowed us to sell our business to Coca-Cola for 3/4 of a unicorn. So I don't say that to show off, I say that to show that we believe there is profit in ethics, and we wanted Innocent to be a case study of that. Everyone got rich, especially us, but we still gave away 60% of the net profits to charity. Mainly because, of course, corporations, they really value growth and volume. That's what they're buying into, and if you're showing that kind of trajectory, then you're going to get well rewarded for that. I have then, since then, in addition to chairing the Innocent Foundation, which redistributes some of that money, I have my own personal foundation, and then I've worked with 60 different charities over the last 20 years. And I just wanted to share sort of 3 insights I've had from being an investor, an entrepreneur, a philanthropist. The first is, in my opinion, and I think you guys already know this is why you've signed up to be pledgers, it's going to be the most effective thing you can ever do with money. I had a guy come to us recently. He had a problem he wanted to help solve, which is that 5 million children die each year from acute malnutrition. He said, I actually know how to hack the current system and to stop that happening, but no one will give me the money for the trial. He said, everyone tells me that I should be trying to sort of tackle the underlying sort of problem, not the current symptoms. To which he said, I would say, yeah, but I get that, and we will. But in the meantime, can we just stop the kids dying? Now, at that point, that was when we wrote the check that he asked for £250,000. He took that £250,000, he ran his pilot in one area of Mali, one of the most affected countries in the world. The data that he got, in terms of the efficacy of the new program, was so stunning, it within 3 months become the way that the Malinese government treated it nationally. 8 weeks ago, it was adopted as the new way for the United Nations to tackle acute malnutrition. That's from one guy on one check for $250,000. It's now become the new global standard for how kids are going to be prevented from dying from malnutrition. That same 250 is, by the way, is the average check size that our average portfolio company is spending on Facebook adverts each month. I've got no problem with that. I love Facebook, it's really helpful. It's just that with a gross margin of 88%, that's about £200,000 per month going to Mark Zuckerberg. So that's a Ferrari a month for Zuckerberg, and I think he's okay, he's covered, right? He's fine, he's okay. So it's just a really brilliant, effective thing. There's a guy over there in the purple jumper called Alexander. He runs a thing called the African Prisons Project. If you give him the same money that you would spend on a VIP table in Pasha nightclub in Ibiza, which is basically my unit of sort of financial management that I use, which says a lot more about me than him. But for the same amount of money I would spend on one table and one night in one nightclub, he will find someone on death row in an African prison on trumped up charges because they didn't understand because they couldn't read, teach them English, remotely over time, tutor them and get them so they become a qualified lawyer for the University of London, that they then represent themselves, prove that they're innocent, get their release, and then, as a lawyer, get 50 more people released from death row. That is literally what he does as a day job for £5,000. Now tell me that is not a good use of that money. So it's massively, powerfully, excitingly effective. The second thing that I found, it's just made my life so much more interesting. Right? I have gone into rebel controlled areas of the DRC to meet the people that are fighting the guerrillas who are trying to kill the guerrillas, as in the David Attenborough guerrillas. I have actually, again through Alexander, I've spent time with 150 HIV-positive death row inmates in a maximum security Ugandan prison without a guard present, and realized I was amongst some of the most eloquent, charming, resourceful, resilient human beings I've ever had the pleasure to meet. I've traveled, and this is me now massively name dropping, but I am a guy from Yorkshire that made it, and there's not many of us, and so I do delighted. So I've spent 5 days traveling around Africa with President Clinton on his plane. It's pretty cool. So giving, no one benefits more than the giver. I've got no problem with that. I love it. I'll take whatever's going, but it's so, so interesting. So I'm just so excited you guys are starting on that journey, and David and his team are going to find you the most sort of life-enhancing experiences you could possibly imagine. And then the third benefit is it just makes your business better. It made it better in every possible way. I don't want to sound negative, but I've been in the room with a lot of rich people, and there's this phrase I keep hearing, oh, charity's broken, charity's broken. And I just want to say, and I mean this in a sort of polite sense, bullshit is charity broken. Charity is the only thing that keeps the show on the road for us as the human species. I think that phrase, charity is broken, is a phrase that rich people use to justify to themselves them not giving some money away. Charity is the most exciting, the most effective coalition of human beings you will find. I did a week with Greenpeace in the Amazon. Now, if you put it into context, Innocent, it takes 450 people at Innocent to make some orange juice and put it into a bottle and get it to the shops. The Greenpeace team in the Amazon are 11 people, and they are fighting and protecting an area the size of, well, the Amazon rainforest against the second most bloody and violent and corrupt industry in the world, which is the illegal logging industry. The guys I met had a 10,000 bounty on their head. They drove around in armored cars. I could see the bullet holes where they'd been tried to be taken out. They're fighting unbelievable darkness and power, and there's only 11 of them. And while they're probably not actually winning, they're sure as hell not losing, and they're turning the corner. So you get a sense of how unbelievably effective charity as an organization be, which you can, of course, then steal all the good bits and bring it back to your business. Secondly, and I guess a more positive thing, I know, as you know, that you win in business ultimately by, do you find the best people? Do you keep them engaged for longer? And do they work harder for you? That's actually the algorithm of how you be successful in business. And I can't tell you how much that we benefited on the human side of Innocent, that people felt that the harder they worked, the better they were doing for the planet. Because literally for every bottle that sells, it's a little bit more money going to charity. So I just got smarter people working harder for longer. And that really was the success of Innocent. And so for me, that's my pitch. You know, and again, I apologize. I know I am literally preaching to the converted. But it makes your own life better. It makes our businesses better. If we do it right, it's going to make the world a bit better. So it's just like great. Let's just do it with as big and as a happy, joyful heart as possible, and tell as many people and get as many people to join us in doing so. The final insight, again, which is an obvious one, but you do have to approach it as an investor, right? I mean, I invest. I invest in charities, I invest in businesses. Totally the same skill set. You're looking for exceptional people that have got a great idea, that have got a plan that if it works is truly scalable. And there's all the gubbins that come with it. You've got to filter through all the applications. You've got to do the due diligence. You've got to do the assessment and make sure it's effective and make sure that everything checks out and make sure that they perform. All of which I put in a box marked really boring, but like super important. And like I'm blessed in my business life that I have people that are great and love doing that. I'm blessed to know these guys at Founders Pledge. That's literally what they do. They do the analysis, the filtering, the sorting, in line with the things that you have as your own personal and family's goals and interests and things you connect with. They basically do brilliantly to a world-class level the stuff that is totally essential, but I think is also a little bit dull. And then you walk in and you just do the very best bits of the very best bit. So That's my pitch, that's my experience. I'm doing it more than ever. I have a personal goal, which is to get rich and to die poor. I've done the first half, I'm now focusing on the second half. Please join me. Thank you.